Nerd On the Podcast is proudly partnered with Apogee Electronics and Odyssey Headphones, leaders in the field of audio.
Let me do Caitlin so that the... Oh, no, I'm the grump. Never mind.
Yeah, that's what I said. You disappointed all of us.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to Nerd On the Podcast you didn't need, but you deserve, where all levels of nerd are welcome. Often, we can find our greatest works of fantasy in novels, live action, even video games. Today, we take a turn into a sprawling world that marries many genres into an Eisner Winning graphic novel. We follow the adventures of ancients, old gods, arcanics, and Micah in Monstress. I'm really excited.
Dun 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 dun.
But before we get into everything, we can introduce our host today. I'm Caitlin.
I'm Tom.
I'm Corey.
And I'm Josh. Just Josh. And this episode is brought to you in part by the members of the Nerd On Nation that is powered by Patreon. As a member of the Nerd On Nation, you do get fun perks. Like,
So fun.
you get early access to these episodes. You get bonus episodes that nobody else hears. You get access to secret channels on our super public Discord server that are only for you and other Nerd On Nation members. You also get what we call the Nerd On Nudge on our other weekly show, the Nerd On Update, where we answer your questions first. So do check it out, the Nerd On Nation, nerdon.tv/Patreon. Plain and simple, it has helped us to grow and be even better than we first originally imagined. Really. Like
It's kind of crazy.
Our content has upgraded substantially because the nation has been like, yeah, do the thing.
Yeah.
Bish. So thank you so much. Do join that, nerdon.tv/Patreon, and check out that Discord, nerdon.tv/Discord. And a huge shout out to our partners, Apogee and Odyssey. We are using the Apogee hype mic, and we are using Odyssey's LCD ones. They're wonderful. They're great. They're comfortable.
Caitlin's using the Mobius.
For me, I'm using the Mobius.
She's got us in that 3D.
She's special.
But I mean, it says a lot about their
surround sound.
It says a lot about their customer service because we told them that something happened with Caitlin's, and they were like, "Boom, send them over. We'll get them over." So they're awesome.
We love you.
We love you. So check them out, and a couple of smaller things. Well, how dare I quantify this?
Yeah, how dare you?
I
don't even know what you're talking about.
We are
How dare you
close.
diet?
We are close to our next goal on Patreon. So close. Patreon. And once we receive that, once we get there, the Nerd On Nation will be able to choose a topic for one of our episodes.
And we can't say no. Terms and conditions apply.
Yeah, so check it out. And if you like what you hear today, like what you see today, stop by, rate, review, subscribe, follow, all of that good stuff. But yeah, Tom, I believe that you had some business to apply here.
Yeah, we're covering a comic today. Tom, tell us a little bit about that.
Thank you. Back to me. Josh, that was wonderful. So today, we're covering graphic novels. Some of you might call them comic books, but you'd be in a weird place because they're both, in a way. I don't know. But,
You're neither right nor wrong, sir.
At the same time, you're Schrodinger's truth. And some would say the best place to read and ingest these stories of grand spectacle and gravitas is in Comixology's app. So we we have an app, we have a link. You guys could support us by supporting yourselves and enriching your lives by enriching our lives. You like how that works? It's like a circle. It goes all the way around.
It's a symbiote.
Yes, symbiote.
Like
Thank you, Jane Slater.
Centipede.
And it's Nerd On TV /Comixology. That's a wonderful website you can go to. It's an affiliate link that we got. And you can check it out on our website.
One more time. For the people in the back.
Nerdon.tv /Comixology. Also, Nerdon TV /Comixology. I don't know how many people use / unless you're into coding. I know a couple people who know C++, but maybe not you for websites. But it's a wonderful place because if you just like to read some stories, and this is the thing about artwork, it's beautiful, right? You want to take it all in, but when you got that like panel to panel, you just tap on your screen. You know what I'm saying? You got a little smart device, whether it's iOS or Android. It's all great because, we're all levels of nerd are welcome here and accepted. And then you just tap, you get the little panel, you read the dialogue, you tap it again, you get another panel, you tap it again, you get a big old splash of everything. It's all you could want in every way you could want it. So go on nerdon.tv/.
Boom.
You nailed it, man.
And
that was good.
That was well done.
I think
That's the housekeeping. Shall we get
cash the
on to
check.
this monstrous of an episode?
I think so.
Yes.
We should. So our first two segments of the show are going to be where we're going to talk about the end of the show, in all honesty. So that brings us to
Guess
that
grump. There's dogs who walk and there's cats who talk. There's a monster living inside her arm. And there's cats who talk and dogs who walk and a monster living inside her arm.
They're called necromancers. And so if you're unfamiliar with that tune, we are also unfamiliar with it.
We are not.
We are
so-
not either.
We are not either. But Corey is. Corey has it all written in his head. He's like, the MCU, even if they call it, the Inhumans movie, it's a show and it doesn't do well, but it's all part of the plan. So guess that grump right now is going to be where we are going to go around the digital screens and guess who is going to have the lowest score from 1 out of 5. No matter how high the number is, the lowest won't be the grump for the week. Since
That
I
is
always
correct.
explain Corey can never go first, I'm going to go first and say that the grump for the volume 1 of Monstress, The Awakening, will be Corey.
Whoa. Okay.
Caitlin physically has the book, and I think she's the one that suggested the episode.
Yeah, Kaylin, who do you think?
Corey.
Whoa. Okay. Josh? Corey.
Corey.
Thought so.
Doesn't mean that it's going to be a low number. That's the thing.
Thought so. Well, my guess is Tom. That's my guess. Are you sitting at home in your car at
Or
work,
at work.
fuming because we didn't vote for Josh like you thought we should? Well, guess what? You can throw your vote into that pool and vote for Josh being the grump because he probably is, because you think that. But how do I do that? You say to me, and I'll tell
How
you.
do I do that, Corey?
You join the Nerd On Nation, and if you join the Nerd On Nation, you could take part in polls for the Guess the Grump, and if you get it right, you're going to be the Gatorade grass-fed Grumperdine old god guessing Gator Grumper guesser person. And
TM.
guess what? If you get it right, you get a shout out on the show. And I think that's
Wow.
pretty cool from yours truly, Corn. So the Nerd On Nation has spoken. Is it Kaylin? Is it Josh? Is it Corey? Is it Tom? Nobody really knows except for the Nerd On Nation. They guess Tom.
What?
I can see it. Yeah.
But
So
how?
it's gonna go Caitlin, Josh, Tom, and Corey, who has 3 votes. Pretty sweet.
Wow. So we have a no vote, 2 no votes,
2
1
no
vote,
votes.
and a 3 vote. Wow.
Yeah,
Okay. All right. Well, shit, baby. We'll move on to the
that's
next
how
part.
it goes, y'all. We'll see.
We'll go to the complete spoiler of that with our brief synopsis and our not brief synopsis, our initial reactions and our first impressions.
There you go.
And I won't go first. How about
Never heard of this. Here you go. I'll go.
Yeah.
Never heard of this Monstress Volume 1 until it was put on the slate to read for Nerd On for y'all people. So we can talk
Corey
about
is going to disappoint us.
it. Am I now?
Yeah.
So this is the closest a comic book has felt to the way I felt playing Knights of the Old Republic. It has this strangely grounded fantasy that lives like somewhere between high fantasy and steampunk. And
You have to be watching us on video so you
I
can't
at no point would have been surprised if someone's like, by the way, here's a lightsaber. I would have been like, great. This makes perfect sense. No, I've always loved, Tom can attest to this in our D&D group. I've always loved, I play a 7'1" lion. I've always loved the mix of like high fantasy and talking animals who have a society of their own. And they were like, bam, got that for you. And they were like, I was like, well, what would the repercussions be for having animals who walk and talk and humans live together? Bam, got that for you. Also cats talk. And I was like, oh my God. So this was like I devoured this first volume. I thought it was so cool. Thought it's really well written. I enjoyed it from start to finish. And I think the first time I read it within like 40 minutes.
Damn.
Because I didn't stop until I got to the end. So
I mean, real
the
quick,
first time I read it, let me throw that out there. The first time I read it.
I do want to
Okay.
say, like, this comic, even the single issues, they're actually a little bit longer than average.
Yeah, this to put that in context, when I say I read it in 30 minutes, it's 208 pages on the Comicsology app. So
yeah.
so it was good.
Damn!
It was good. It was good.
That was an appropriately earned damn. I'll go next.
Good.
So Monstress has been on my comic book periphery for years now. Like, somebody mentioned it because of the kinds of comic books that I like, and it just was always there. Comicsology is always like, hey, recommended, you'd like this. Bro, you'd like this. Hey, you'd like this. And then we
Bro,
put it on
I
the
know
docket.
you want this, bitch.
You need this. And then it was put on the docket, and one night I had finished another series, and I was like, well, I'm gonna go ahead and get started early. And I may or may not be up to date with where the current issue is.
I feel like
knows?
it's a May and
Who's
not
to
May
say?
not.
I neither confirm nor
Who's to say?
I devoured it. Like, it was just a constant just turning the page of, like, and it's not just turning the page, but you're
Turn the page.
Turning
wash
the
your
page.
hands. Turn the page. Wash your hands. Rocco's Modern Life.
yeah, no, I got it. Like Tom was explaining about the Comicsology app, you can do panel by panel, but this is one of those ones that you had to zoom out so you could see the
Double
whole
click.
picture.
So you're like,
And
got it.
there's
Back in.
some really cool panels where the action, the panel bars are there, but the action is spreading into other panels, and you have to be able to see, like, oh damn. I loved every aspect of this story, and it just gets better. Like, it just gets more grandiose, and it was just so good. There's certain things I really want to talk about, but I'm going to wait until favorite parts.
You know how we do our show. Yeah.
Yeah,
For
I'm
sure.
going to stick to the layout of the show that we've been doing for almost 4 years.
Yeah.
I really don't want to, but I'll do it for you.
I'll do it for you
Kaylin-
guys.
Kaylin, you or me?
You
Go.
go.
Go. Wait. Let me do Caitlin so that the. Oh no, I'm the grump. Never mind.
Yeah, that's what I said. You disappointed all of us.
You were
supposed to be the
chosen one.
I'm paying
because
attention.
He had the most votes, and I was like, he's going to have the most stellar review for this thing. So okay.
That's twice now.
You know, what's up, y'all? It's me, Tom. Nerdy boy here. For those who don't read comic books, this is a wonderful, wonderful way to get into it. I think this is, it's more graphic novel because the writer, Marjorie, she comes from a novelist background. So if you are into fantasy, this is a good place for you. And I'm not saying like,
I
you
can
gotta
tell.
be only about fantasy, but like fantasies tends to be, have different levels of entry. So for me, again, the initial reactions and, all that stuff, I found it to be like, a really cool, like 1 part Naruto, 1 part Korra, 1 part Berserk, which ends up becoming kind of like its own thing. And it like in a best way, it's almost like a very serious version of Inuyasha. And those who are familiar with those terms who aren't in comic books will know that like that means like there's a whimsy and fun in the designs, but there is also like this beauty in the grim and the dark, but also like this realistic storytelling that's happening that you kind of you get introduced at the second act and you're like, let's go. And then the following issues will tell you about like what's going to like how that world it involves that first scene, and that very first issue is like really, really important. So everyone, I highly recommend giving this a try. It's an Eisner winning comic book story.
Multi.
Yeah, multi. And I absolutely, if you don't know what the Eisners are, they're like the Oscars for comic books, or for written works. I started reading it. And kind of like Corey's point, where I was like, at first I was like, oh my god, 208 pages. Like, okay, let's go, baby. And this has always been like on my like, okay, I gotta read this. And I went through, and I was like, oh wow, this moves really well, really quickly. And they introduce a new thing in every issue, and you learn more about the world, and you're just kind of like, okay, but what does that mean? How's this going to play out? And you're familiar with certain conventions and types of storytelling and elements of theme. You think one thing, and then it starts playing out like another one, and so like you're kind of on this wonderful kind of like tour of like, oh, this is like all these genres being married together in a fun way. Yeah, I absolutely recommend it. I've actually been reading a lot more fantasy, or not reading. I've been doing a lot of audiobooks of fantasy stuff. So like this going from one thing into this one, I was just like, oh, this is like great. Like people who like fantasy are going to like this. And so I'm like trying to recommend it to people. And I much enjoy.
I
Caitlin?
much enjoy.
So I actually got this first issue or issue 1 for one of my roommates was doing a free comic book day, and that was just
Nice.
something that was available. And it's the reading it the first time, which was a while ago at this point, but it stuck with me. It stuck with me really heavily. But I never really sought out reading the whole thing until we were getting ready for this. Like to really pour over it. It's one of those things that you find it, you like get through everything, you're like, that was really good. And then you don't really think about it. You go over it again and you're like, oh. So this was good the first time, better the second time. You know what? That's enough of an initial reaction, I think.
Okay.
She didn't like it. So now we'll move on to our next two segments. We're going to be our brief synopsis and our production. The brief synopsis brought to you by me. So I'm reading this off of the Amazon. So if you want to get it there, I highly recommend get it from your comic book store instead. Save those babies. But
Yeah.
set in an alternate matriarchal 1900s Asia, in a richly imagined world of Art Deco inflected steampunk, Monstress tells the story of a teenage girl who is struggling to survive the trauma of war and who shares a mysterious psychic link with a monster of tremendous power, a connection that will transform them both. Entertainment Weekly praises Monstress as one of Image Comics' most imaginative and daring new series, and dubbed it the best new original series in the year and best comics of 2015 list. That's it. Like,
Great.
if you look it up on Google, it'll be like, this is just as ambitious as George R. R. Martin. And I'm like, dude, this sucks. So check it out. And I think all our brief synopsis kind of entails what it is.
Yeah.
And our production.
Production comes from me. The publication is from Image Comics, known for The Walking Dead, Spawn, Invincible. Writers, Marjorie Liu, known for The Hunter Kiss, Tiger Eye, Astonishing X-Men. Artist, Sana Takeda, known for X-23, Miss Marvel, Civil War. Publication date starts November 2015 to present. There are currently 5 volumes out. 6 is coming in September, to a total of, current issue is 33. And copies sold unlisted. So
A lot.
Yeah.
a lot.
Soon to be more.
Yes.
But one quick thing before we start getting into our next, bits with the spoilers. I do really like that. I did a little bit of research, and I looked up Marjorie Liu, and she was talking about how a lot of the story kind of inspired from her talking with her grandma, and talking about like the wars that her grandma lived through, and like how she would like jovially talk about the like terribleness that happened, but like with a smile. And it was kind of like, what would it take for someone to be able to retell these stories as a person who isn't like fully traumatized by it?
Yeah.
Who's like come out from it. So it was very interesting when you look at it from that aspect of like, this is what the writer intended to tell this story, that like it doesn't steer away from like very adult situations and conversations.
Dark shiz.
But it looks really cool and fantastic at the same time. So Yeah. I thought Takeda also like just
And
killed it.
For anyone who has been collecting these as they come out issue by issue, today we're covering volume 1, which covers issues 1 through 6.
And really, just
in case you want to follow along at home.
a shout out to, because we talked about Eisner Awards. I just wanted to be specific. They've won multiple, but 2018 alone was Best Writer, Best Cover Artist, Best Painter / Multimedia Artist, Best Publication for Teens, Best Continuing Series. So
It's really beautiful.
yeah,
Like, really.
yeah.
Yeah.
Favorite parts?
Let's
Yeah.
go. So now full into spoiler full world.
So many spoilers right now, y'all.
I was gonna
Ren, go for it.
I was just gonna start first because we were talking about the art.
Hey, go for it.
That is just like an overall favorite part is the art of the
Takeda
entire
kills it.
thing. Like the thing that I love about it, if you like zoom in, if you're looking at a panel and you zoom in, the lines aren't perfect. It's not perfect by any means, but you don't know that because it's a whole. The painting, the shadowing, like everything together creates almost an illusion of this perfection. But when you look at it, you're like, oh, they're you can kind of see where there's lines where they might not.
It's not totally cleaned up.
Yeah, exactly. And I loved that. There were just so many things, like the paint. I don't think I've ever seen anything like this before.
The cool thing that I think has a good aspect of it, I don't want to have to make it a full comparison, but like I compared it to like Berserk, and it's really busy. The designs, intricacies of like the sarcophagus and the monster and like the dead gods, like there's so much line work in there that like if you zoomed in, you're like, oh my god, someone drew all those lines to make it feel like, and then you zoom out, you're like, and you barely even see it. And so it creates that illusion. It's like, I don't want to be, again, too comparison-y, where it's like Steppenwolf from Zack Snyder's Justice League, where like the spikes, where it's like it's a lot going on visually, but there's direction and line, so at least your eyes have a place to go. And so like your eyes get drawn to probably the most menacing part of these terrible creatures, which is the center, which is typically has this giant eye that looks at you straight in the eye, and you're like, oh my god. But
At the reader, yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool. I think that's really dope. Other favorite parts, Corey?
Yeah, Ren trying to intimidate the assassin
It's like,
By-
by
listing his accomplishments, and then it doesn't work. He's like, well, I tried.
Yeah.
Okay, let's run. I thought I'd give it a shot, so here we go.
As a poet say,
also-
we're fucked.
I was also really
God,
interested
that was so good.
their scholars and scientists or whatever are poets. That's their historical or scientific or the people
or they
look
say
to.
they say.
Yeah, the poets are the ones. Like usually we'd be like, well, scientists say that global warming, but they'd be like, oh, the poets say that this, and this, and this. I thought that was kind of cool. I thought that was cool.
I for some reason when you mentioned that part, I hate that I do this, and I think he gets typecasted a lot as this character. But I feel like if they were ever going to do like an adaptation of it, that is Alan Tudyk all day.
Ren. Oh my
Ren,
god, yeah.
yeah,
Oh
I
my
was like,
god,
oh.
yeah.
But no, I really enjoyed and this is like a later thing, the exploration. This is where it starts getting a little, to me, Naruto like of Micah and the monster. And to me, like so far, and Josh, you could tell me if I'm in the wrong because you've read more of it than I have. When you get these first issues, you kind of have to start thinking like, what does this monster kind of represent beyond the text? And like, is it like her natural hatred towards like the world that she lives in? And is this like the open expression of that hatred striking out? And that's why it hungers and it feeds for, what we perceive as like malice and death, but is it more like revenge? Because she tries to direct it towards people who deserve to be killed. But unfortunately, there are people who are killed in the crossfire, especially with, the very beginning. But like, what does a dark spirit represent in a story of fantasy and all that stuff? And sometimes it doesn't have to, but when you aren't given any context of like what it is on text, for the first 4 issues, you're kind of like, okay, what does this represent? What is this darkness inside of her that response?
They're both within this comic at least, they're both rebels of their own kind, right?
And then
And she doesn't align with her either side of who she is, really, humans or the ancients. And so this, you find out in the last few panels of this issue that this old god was also a betrayer of his kind and sought to or did overthrow the other old gods in favor of the humans and the ancients.
And that's what I really started liking, where it's like you got more of him, and he's like, I have been asleep for all this long. Why are you so hunted? Like all these things are where he starts becoming, or that thing becomes a character. And first it becomes kind of like this part of Micah, but then later on it becomes a character. And I really started like digging into that, where I'm like, now it's like if you give me all control of you, then I'll give you something that you don't have. It's like, what can you possibly offer me? It's like, your name. I'm like, there's power in names, and that's a very big, like, to me, gothic occulty kind of thing, which is up my alley. Like with fantasy, I prefer the Bloodborne-y H.P. Lovecraft stuff. Like, I like the dark, maddening tales that talk about the things that we would go crazy if we knew about. Versus kind of like fairies and
well, it
dragons and
harkens
stuff.
back to the like one of the oldest folklore tales, which is like the only way to get rid of the devil is by guessing his name, and you can get out of any deal with the devil if you can guess his name. And I mean, that's the Rolling Stones song, hope you guess my name. So it was kind of a little nod to that too, which is pretty cool. It just shows you how ancient these entities are.
Kaylin?
Just all the ghosts of the old gods.
Oh yeah.
And when the little fox boyo is like, can
Kippa?
it see us?
Kippa.
And it's like, I mean, no, but it's looking like it's right there.
Yeah.
I don't know, the representation of that, and then like Micah getting her arm back as like a ghost image too. I mean, they didn't really draw a lot of attention to it, but
Isn't Kippa a girl?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Little fox girl?
Yeah, she's a girl.
I say boyo as a catch-all, but yes.
Oh.
Kippa. We'll go with Kippa, the name. But
I could be wrong.
yeah,
I could totally
all the
wrong.
old god ghosts were just so cool. All the different designs, they were just horrifying things.
Do you think
which
of unknowns,
actually is
Josh?
more biblically correct too, because angels were described as these like many-eyed balls with 1,000 wings. They're terrifying. So that representation was amazing.
Yeah, and I mean, just speaking on Kippa, she, a specific part with her is when they are reunited later in the book with Ren, and Ren is such a dickhead sometimes, and just
man.
and he's like tough, and she just runs up and holds him, and he's like typical cat moment of like holding him, and like, God, get away from me.
Yeah.
I mean, Kippa is just such a wonderful juxtaposition of what, like, I mean, Micah, badass, strong woman, just like, and I love there's a juxtaposition of using kind of modern language of even the F-bombs and some of those things where it's just like, I don't expect it in this kind of story where you're like, it's nah.
Vintagey fantasy.
When Ren goes, as the poets say, we're fucked.
We're fucked.
I was just like, yeah, I'm into it.
And that's apparently Marjorie Liu's favorite word, which I'm like,
Fuck.
Hell yeah.
I understand her. But like, yeah, I agree to that. I like
I
what
think fuck was invented in like the 15th century as a word. So
as
it's been
the
around,
action
baby.
of. But no,
It's been
I
around.
like what Kippa kind of like does for the story of like kind of always showing the North Star of like what innocence and who are we trying to protect? Because at the end of the day, Kippa is an archonic, and like there is that weird effed up, sense of, oppression because of the Kumehae. And like also I love that. Like I don't give a fuck. I don't give a shit if it sounds like agenda like SJW blah blah progress. I loved that like everyone here was like most characters were women. Like it gave
that was
like
cool.
like even with the Edenite woman, I forget her name.
Amelia.
Amelia, yeah, who's on this little cart thing. It's like that's just like a normal person, and like you can literally see the male analog of what that would be. But then seeing it done with women was like, oh, this is cool. I like this. Like the Inquisitrix, like they were so badass, and they were named like Tongs and Hammer and Flame. I'm like, oh my god, which one's going to be named Chainsaw, please?
I just
so-
loved that every.
Yeah, Hammer just spoke with different symbols with their hands. Like it was cool because, and then they had, that was a little bit of like a Chewbacca R2D2 thing where like everyone else knew what they were talking about, but we as the audience didn't know.
Yeah.
But also like Mother Superior, like that coming out, like she was just badass to begin with. Like, oh shit, real shit's happening, and like I like what they're doing with I forget her name, Atena. Atena is her name, I believe.
Atena, yeah.
Yeah, like at first you're like, oh, I don't know what's going on with these two women characters who are kind of oppressing and keeping people as prisoner.
But then
And
you find out she's
out Atena is an
like freedom
Arcana.
fighter essentially from within,
and like I was like, oh my god,
and her
so like,
brother.
there was a moment where I felt like, oh, there's something about her that's like you think you should be worried about this character as an antagonist, but they get taken out really quickly, so it subverts that expectation. And then like the side, not Flanders. Who's Mr. Burns' little assistant guy? Smithers character, who's just like, oh, they're the one who you might actually like have a heart for because they're the ones that might actually make the end game decision for the main characters.
Mm-hmm.
So like they're the person you have to change, and they'll become the.
Well,
heart.
it's nice because this. I mean, I'll echo. You're like, oh, let me sound like I have an agenda as well, but like this comic does a lot. 2015, right? That's when it came out. So this is right at the precipice of a lot of like a lot of the first round of riots before we got into the ones within our quarantine. So you have to remember, like, it's also dealing with racism within this comic very heavy-handedly and not being shy about it either.
And not just one kind. It's
not one
it's-
kind. I think Ren even calls her a bigot for talking about, I never trust cats. You're all thieves. And he's like, okay, wow, offensive.
The casualness of bigots.
Yeah. And I just think that was really kind of ahead of its time.
Yeah. A specific kind of one panel is the reveal of Corvin. He's
Sephiroth,
just,
motherfucker.
he's just so dope.
Ravenborn. How do I not like him?
Yeah.
I love crows.
All right,
Yeah.
Ravenborn.
There's
Bro.
I love the purple in this series, just in general. Just the kind of purple that they use. It's like this
For
midnight
the Ilium.
dark. Yeah, for Ilium. Just specifically on the reveal of Corvin, his axe has purple coming off of it, and it's a good purple. It's like the royal, like
It's
that's
a good purple.
That's a good purple.
Royal blue.
Also, I love Tenno and the reveal. but also, I love Dr.
the
Tam
rough
Tam.
cat.
Dr.
Oh yeah,
Tam
the
Tam?
little snippets.
The little stories you get. Like to
where
me,
he's
that
telling
was
the little
so
kits.
that was so anime. That was so anime.
Yeah.
Like,
Very.
here's the thing right
extremely
before
anime.
Yeah.
and I love it. But like, you see how they're like making chocolate covered rats, and I was like, oh my god, this is so cute. Like I thought that was cute. But like I was just like, yo, cats with many tails, and they're like, anthropomorphic where they talk, and I was like, oh, this is pretty great. This is like to me that's very anime. So like
So I have a favorite part, but I have to explain it because it doesn't sound like a favorite part.
I
like-
hated this thing.
No, I didn't. Well, okay. I'll just say, and then we'll talk.
Yeah.
So when they killed the Cyclops child,
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
that, I think for me, that set the entire world for me. Like how casually they can kill children and
eat them.
chop them up and eat them. Like
They're witches, baby.
Yeah, I know. But like, there's like Hansel and Gretel and that kind of thing, and they're like, haha, tee hee, like this is fun. There's candy houses, and also people get eaten. Like this kind of
Not
has
quite
that,
as fun in the original Grimm Brother one, by the way.
Not in the original, no. But yeah, this kind of has that good balance of making you aware of exactly how dire things are in this world, while also showing like why it's important that they're fighting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. That like stuck out in my mind from the very first time I saw it. Like I feel like not many things shocked me in such a way, but that one did.
Like,
That's actually one of like a criticism that I read about the book was that like it's very like it kind of throws in death and violence really quickly. And
Mm-hmm.
it's hard for, I think, audiences to be like, I don't understand the context or the importance of the violence, or are we saying that people don't matter and all that stuff? But I think to me, it's kind of to show like we're going in quick and it's like not pretty, but also death is a very common thing in this time,
Mm-hmm.
and it's something to be like not that it's like it's easy to throw away, but like when you're using it and you're and it goes on, like future deaths become more important because like you start knowing these characters. So you saw all these people die, but we just saw already that like people die for no reason and it sucks. But like to your point, like it throws you in really like, boom, we're here, we're doing the mission. We're like, what's the mission? I don't even know what's happening.
Yeah.
But then later on, like, and so that was a very interesting experience when I was reading it. That I was just like, I don't know who I'm supposed to give a shit about, and I don't know where where this is supposed to go. What's the success? What's the end game? Like this character doesn't even know what the end game is or why we're doing what we're doing. And then as we later on go further and further, we're kind of just taken on this ride and exploring this world. Like one thing I really enjoyed was like when the ancients were talking, and I forget they're all called War Lady or Warlord.
Oh,
and
warlord. My warlord.
my warlord. And I was like, this is pretty baller as shit. And I love it's that like Josh was talking about like, and Corey was talking about like there's like a little bit of like this animosity even amongst the quote unquote tribes and the races, that like they have like this animosity towards each other, even though they're quote unquote supposed to be fighting on the same side, but they all just
Yeah.
kind of view
It's
the
not
world
just
very
like a racism, but it's also a ego isn't the right word, but it's just like I'm better than you. Like there's this
complex.
there's a complex like if you're of a certain title or something like that of what your value to society is, and what you represent, like within those things. And then there's the big hatred's bad.
Man, you got it.
What I like about
it kind
this,
of is.
it's not just the world that we're dealing with, the outside world that we're seeing unfold, but we're also seeing the internal world of what's happening inside Micah, and the things that are revealed within there, the conversations between her and the monster. I know. And then like learning the past, like when he comes out, he's like, why are you so familiar? And it's just like, oh, there's history.
I really want to know more about this monster thing, this old god that's inside of her, because people are just like, oh, it's that no, it's like, but it is like, I believe you though, and you have to die because of it. I'm like, damn, like that's such a cool thing. Like I really like Mother Superior as a character just because like she's so Frieza. So
Oh man,
like I'm going to kill people.
She takes the mask off.
Oh my god, so good. But like I don't know. I also I loved how everyone tried to stab the arm multiple times, and you just see knives and swords shattering. I'm like, guys.
Yeah, even she tried it herself.
I love that they also had a little bit of like kind of My Hero feel, that every time she overpowers her secret superpower, then she injures herself in the process because she doesn't know how to harness her power. I love that.
Yeah. I mean, it is a little cautionary tale of like, you know, fighting quote unquote like with your heart on your sleeve, and it's like it takes a toll on you. It takes probably a bigger toll than it is like than you think, even though you just murdered an entire forest full of people. But it's just like it doesn't come without its own cost. And you know, at the very end, you know, you see that giant battle, and it costs more of her arm. And so like, oh, also the freaking twist at the end with Tuya.
Oh,
and I was like,
Oh,
yo.
yeah.
And they're like, yo, do you don't think that was? It couldn't be. And then it shows like, well, she can't be far. I was like, oh no. well,
They're gonna be reunited.
it's technically on the bad side, right? Because isn't like the Dust Council like going after her so they can use her? And that's why like Corvin was like, all right, peace out, man, go away. And then you find out that Tuya's on that council, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh shit. So uh-oh. This got a little Gundam wing out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I'll kill you.
I also liked it's one frame, but it's when they first kind of get to the Dust Council and some fighting breaks out. Corvid grabs Ren by the neck, Scruff, And Ren just
Oh, yeah.
yells out, pardon me, that is a very rude place to grab a cat. I lost it. I did.
Because you're imagining
just
grabbing your cat, and you're like, well,
well,
probably
it's like,
would say
you know,
that.
if you think of the reason cats like go totally like stasis mode when you do that, is because they remember their mom grabbing them by the scruff of the neck, and so they have this like, that's where my mom grabbed me. Stop. So for him, being a sentient cat was like, hey, that's not for you. But there's a moment like probably like 20, 30 pages earlier in the volume 1 where I think Kippa does it, but he doesn't complain about it.
Oh,
Ren keeps, no, he doesn't. Ren does not complain about it. He does not complain about it because he likes Kippa. And, you know, I just thought that was a nice little nod to that because it happens first. She grabs him, but then later on, someone else does it who he doesn't like. And he's like, excuse me.
I thought
it's for friends and family only.
I thought it was pretty wild when, was her name Amelia? You said, right?
yeah,
Kayla?
Amelia.
She gets a run in with the soldiers, and then Ren just comes in, just slices one of the guards'
rips
face
that
after
person's throat
catching
out.
the baby. I was like, oh man, but okay. And then
I know.
and then after that, Kippa comes in and she just has like this bramble vine, just slices someone's face. I'm like, oh my god, everyone, no one is safe here. And I'm just like,
Well, I mean, they're going to kill them.
yeah, and
So-
also they did the baby thing, so it was like, all right, everyone here should die. But it's also kind of like one of them saved the baby, so maybe okay, whatever, they're dead now.
Yeah,
But,
that's the bad part of the us versus them thing. You know, it's the you getting curious about what, you know, the lives of the henchmen are
And then
when
boop, they're gone.
when they get beat up, because you're like, not all of them are bad. Some of them, you know, just grew up in that
Yeah.
world.
Yeah, like you said, that one guard's like, but it's a baby.
But they still
Like, I don't care.
They still put the baby there, right?
Yeah.
And that's to me the Magneto thing. I have been the subject to other people's orders for my entire life,
Yeah,
and so no more. I'm like
Mm-hmm.
every time.
yeah.
When do favorite characters? Two that are not the main
Yeah.
character.
Good news. Main character wasn't even my favorite anyway.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So how would you go ahead first, Corey?
Ren, 100%.
Oh,
100%.
am I
Ren.
shocked? No,
No.
is the answer.
Color
that
me
I would say.
shocked. Best character.
Oh.
Sassy,
Oh,
know it all. He would have been an old guy with a beard if he was a person, and
you're not
that would
wrong.
have been just fine by me. I didn't have a second character prepared, so
Oh.
I guess Ravenborn
Okay.
because he's Crow.
Wow. Also shocked.
Because he's a Crowman. Do we get to see more of him, Josh?
This is a Josh question.
Cool. Thanks. That's all I want to know. Then him.
Josh,
Josh
Caitlin, or
nods
me?
his head.
Who else we got?
Josh.
I'll go. It's gonna be Kippa number 1.
Mm-hmm.
She's a sweet baby.
She's lovely.
She brings
page of the
the
group.
light to the dark. That's what when you're reading something like this, you're like, oh, there she is. Oh, and she has her moments, and then Ren. I mean, you have the other side of the scale where he's like, well, we're fucked. And he's a
Little
cat.
Mary and Pippin kind of situation going on.
Yeah, he's a cat.
Oh, wow.
I like him.
That's why I got the name. I was like, I forget the name of the fox and Inuyasha. Guess what? Shippo. Very close. Very close. And I was like, that's
Very.
that character.
Palin.
Someone was an Inuyasha fan for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And you should be.
this is hard.
Want me to go first?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. The monster, number 1, all day, all day, all
Nice.
day. Easy. And I think I
Do y'all not write these down?
No, well,
I come every week with them written.
Mister, I don't
'Cause
have
I-
a second
we're gonna-
one.
We're gonna ask this question every week. Well, I had one ready.
I think for me is a Mother Superior. I just really liked how she was just into it, and she brought back Yvette back to life, and it was just like pretty baller. Like, and also I really like the design of her uniform.
Her like feather sleeves.
But like you could see these intricate designs and you could see the skin underneath it. Like to me, I'm like, why don't we have more of this in movies?
I don't know.
Like I think there is a weird, gross misconception, but this is me as a straight male of like we're being too afraid to like show skin because it's going to be seen as sexualized. But I'm like, if you consult with women, but it's like, do you find this empowering? Is this cool? And then they'd be like, yeah. I was like, okay, then let's do it. Like I think there is a level of like you can combine cool, empowered, menacing, and sexy at the same time.
Look at Final Fantasy X too. I love that game.
I was gonna say, look at the Billy Zane and the Phantom.
Hmm.
He paints that suit on his body.
The Phantom.
Caitlin.
Phantom.
No.
So actually,
Dang,
yeah,
Phantom.
I like the monster a lot.
The old god?
Yeah, the old god living in Micah's arm.
What do they call him? Not monster, but
In right here on Wikipedia it says the monster.
yeah, but they call it
The
something
monstrum.
else. Yeah.
Monstrum.
There's a monstrum living in her.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually gonna say Mother Superior as well.
That
I was like, I don't really want her to be my choice though, so that's why I was hem-hawing on it a lot.
because she's Sauron as fuck.
She's super Sauron as fuck, but she's so cool.
She's so cool.
She's just so
She's
cool.
just like whispering sweet nothings into needles and bringing ladies back to life, and
And also
Then
sucking
just,
their
like-
life away.
fucking yeah, just being like, oh no, it was delayed demonic powers. What happened? Sorry. Oh yeah, no, it was bad. The Arcanics.
So bad.
They're so
deliciously
bad.
evil. All right, now we'll go into qualms. Who would like to go first?
I'll go.
Okay.
None. No, I'm just kidding. I only have one, and it's more of a general thing, and it's I would say that I disagree with you, Tom, if I were to say I don't think that this is a starting point for reading comics in a sense of
That's a lot.
it's a lot. I think that
A lot.
there's as you go down the road, like it is for me, and maybe I'm a weak reader. I don't know. There's a lot to
Someone had
take
to
in.
say it.
There's a lot to the world. There's a lot of races. There's a lot of characters. There's a lot of not rules per se, but there's a lot going on. And it's all important. It is all important to the greater story as a whole. So that's the only thing that I would say in terms of what I felt about it.
The entry of the window of entry is pretty high,
The,
or it's higher than it needs to be.
it's semi high. But that's it. There's nothing else that I'm like, this thing is perfect to me. It's beautiful.
Kaylin, Corey?
Tom?
I don't have any qualms.
There
and
it is.
and so the only quote unquote not making a rebuttal, but because I started reading this one fantasy that was highly recommended to me, I was like, I don't know what the fuck is going on. And they're like, oh well, you didn't get this. I'm like, I don't know what this is, and I don't know what that is. And for everyone listening, I'm sorry, I'm bringing you into my life. Brandon Sanderson's Mistborn, which is highly regarded as like one of the greatest like fantasy novels. It has a really good magic system. First 2 hours of this audiobook, I didn't understand shit. And I was like, I don't get it. And this, I was like,
What is
I understand-
happening?
I understand everything so clearly.
I get
Because it gave me pictures. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, I don't know who the
You're like,
fuck to...
ultimate power. I've gone
Well, it-
through the depths of hell.
Well, that's kind of the thing for me. It was just like I felt like I'm not stupid and I'm not dumb, but then like that book made me feel dumb, and I was like, oh my god, I don't know anything. I had to listen to the first 4 hours, and I was like totally cool with it, but I was just like, I want to understand this. With Monstress, I never felt that way, and that's why I'm like, if
So
you're
none.
into fantasy, yeah. For me, yeah, none. I don't. For volume 1, it's a complete story. Read it to the end.
Yep.
If you stop and start asking questions, go back a page or two, sure, but go to the very end and see if you have those questions still.
I feel like you'd have to read it like 12 times over to nitpick it for a qualm.
Not
And
me.
you'd be nitpicking.
No, some people just like different things.
No. That's a difference of like that not being your cup of tea. That's like a taste thing to me. Because I've said that even with like superhero stuff. That's not my cup of tea, but my qualms won't be related to that. You know? That's just a taste thing.
Sure.
Well, do you have any?
No.
Okay.
So my qualm, I got angry every time I saw the Professor Tam Tam page come up. I was like, this shit again. Give me back to the story.
That had like Spawn vibes. You know how they would go to
Oh,
like
man.
the newscaster, like full page, and you're like,
And for me, again,
I didn't know I was gonna have homework to do while I read this comic.
Well, okay, and this is for me. This was where like, it's not apples to apples, but like, or apples and oranges. But like,
Yeah.
I really liked it because it was like a little character-y driven, and I was like, oh, this is kind of nice little Dr. Rogue. Who's that Pokemon kind of feel like versus like Jonathan Hickman's House of X, where I was like, gotta read this fucking schematic.
Sure.
And so like it felt there's two ways you can go about it.
It took me out of it. I think if they had showed ancient text that I read, I think I would have accepted it more. But it was definitely like, and now a commercial break. And you're like, I don't want a commercial break. She just had a monster come out of her arm. I want to see what happens next.
Next time on.
so
there is a next time.
To me, it just felt like like to be real about it. What it felt like to me was that I was reading this more adult centered comic, and then it came into like for all the kids who don't understand what's happening, and I was like, no, another comic can have this because you've done a really good job of explaining everything so far. I didn't need the only one I really enjoyed was the one that wasn't like, here's a message from Professor Tam. It was just them around the map of the different races, the ancients.
the races.
Yeah,
Like
that was
the
my
races.
favorite one too.
And it wasn't like a, it felt like I had a like ad in my comic essentially. Like I was like, here's your free perfume because you bought this magazine. So like after like
Some
the
people
second
really
one, I
like
was like,
that.
I don't want this anymore. That's it. That's my only qualm though.
All right.
So
Well,
That is
with
amazing.
that-
I like that. I remember those. Free perfume. Here's your
Yeah,
free-
back when I used to get the
like,
Macy's
it still
catalog.
happens.
I
You
know.
just fold it open and you would rub it on your. You'd be like, I'm going
Yeah.
to school today. I'm going to smell good.
Yeah.
So
Keep it in your
first is
pocket.
Caitlin or Josh for the
Caitlin.
ratings.
Caitlin.
Me?
Yep.
Me?
Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah, he called it.
This has been sitting here for a minute.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
5.
Ding,
I already had it written down,
Ding.
by the way.
ding. Of course you did. This is
So.
like all of my favorite things,
Yeah.
all squooshed into one beautiful volume that there are 5 of currently, and I'm gonna read them all.
Josh.
5.
5.
It's a
Josh.
5.
Oh yeah, for the audio listeners, Caitlin had a 5. We
I had a
Yeah,
5
you
up.
guys have to
That's
keep in
why I
mind
tried
that.
to say
5.
it. Corey.
It's Nerd on the
Sorry.
podcast, not
Lead with
only
that.
Nerd on
Lead
the
with that.
videocast.
You're right. You're right.
Josh.
5.
Josh, 3.
5.
Yeah, there it is. Thank
He's
you.
like 5,
I've
5,
been
5,
saying 5.
5.
Next is Tom.
5.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say it this way. I love everyone for it. Have your things. This is my kind of fantasy.
Yeah.
Like, I know, Caitlin, you're all about that Lord of the Rings. You have it tattooed on your body.
I do.
This to me is like this. I would tattoo one of this on my body, like because it has more of that anime vibage. And I was talking to one of my friends, like, "Oh, really, Tom? You like something that speaks to you more? That's weird." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm just saying." Like, I always feel a little weird when like I don't get the full nerd on when people start talking about like Middle Earth. I'm like, I don't. It doesn't.
What's wrong with me?
Do we need to put fucking cat lessons in the middle of Lord of the Rings for you, Tom? Is that what we
Yes.
need?
or just cats at all?
Is that what we need for you?
Because
I don't think there are
there's
any
0
cats.
cat in Lord of the Rings,
Oh, wow. That might change it for him.
and there's more gray orcs than anything.
Yeah, definitely not in the movies at least, but in the extended universe.
We'll see.
That means it's my turn.
Go ahead, Corey.
4.9.
Tell me I'm right.
I knew it.
Tell me I'm right.
4.9.
Oh man.
I just again, when we do these comics, I just compare it like Tom did with Mortal Kombat, compared to every fighting movie out there. I compare it to every comic I've read. This
we've
is
read
one of the
Watchmen.
best ones I've ever read. This is one of the best ones I've read in a very long time as well. But I didn't want it to affect the 1.1, but the Tam Tam things really really upset me.
It affected your enjoyment of the content.
It did. It felt like a little
Professor Tam
roadblock,
Tam.
and I didn't want them.
Shut up.
Is there more of those, Josh? Yeah. All right.
I-
Cool. I'm
I-
still gonna read it
I
all. Like,
want
it doesn't matter.
Tam Tam stuffed animals.
Here's what
I
I'll
want
say.
all the family.
Yeah.
It's like, here's what I'll say. It's just like, I'll be perfectly honest. I skipped those. Once
probably will.
Once I realized that they were affecting my experience, I was like, oh, okay.
I definitely
Swipe.
will, but
it's like,
to cover it, I had to read all of them.
I want
to,
it all.
to effectively cover this comic. So I will be reading the remainder of this series 100%. This is one of the best high fantasy comics
so
I've ever read.
I'm gonna buy the hardcover for the first volume if I can, and if I can get them Neckos, I'm gonna buy them stuffed animals. Those are fucking baller shit. Like
We do have a
Tano?
couple shout outs though
Yes.
that I have to give to the
So
Nerd On
Tom,
Nation.
Corey, and Tom, Caitlin, and Josh were right.
Yes, that is correct. That point one, baby. Shout out to Matt R and General G for guessing Corey on this one.
Nice.
Yeah. Who
They
knows?
are that
Maybe the
guess
next
that
volumes will
grumper.
be 5s because this is very close. Very close.
Nice. Everybody at home, thank you so much for listening or watching. If you're on the YouTubes, if you're new to Nerd On, welcome. Glad to have you. Thanks for listening. Check out our website, nerdon.tv. Has all of the information on every single thing that we do, all of the linky links, all the social, all that good stuff. So check it out. Like we've mentioned before, all of our episodes are video as well. So check them out on YouTube. We've worked really hard to get them to the quality that they are, and all thanks to the Nerd On Nation that have helped us to grow and be the best that we can be. They are dope peeps. So check out that Nerd On Nation, nerdon.tv/Patreon, and check out that Discord. There's a really wonderful community that just keeps on growing. The conversation are always going, and there's a channel for everything from movies, TVs to comic books. You can continue the conversation about Monstress over there. Stop by, rate, review, share, subscribe. Apple Podcasts is actually changing their verbiage on their verbiage. It'll no longer be subscribe to us on Apple Podcast. Follow us on Apple Podcast. Just to, continuity.
okay.
Follow us on Twitch. Subscribe to us on Twitch. There's anyway. Thank you so much for listening.
Destroy that follow
difficult.
button.
Yeah, you know the drill. As always, Nerd On.
Ending broadcast.